Karl, would you like to have a Final Fantasy VII base book club style podcast together?
Yeah. Sounds pretty dang good.
I like it. We should do that.
Pretty much how it happened, I feel like.
Yeah. Coincidentally, related to that, it is June 19th, 2019, and this is the inaugural episode of the Every FNFF podcast. I am your Hole Eater A, Curtis Ware, and with me
is B Hole Eater Karl.
The greatest B Hole Eater of all time.
I stole that joke from Curtis's Twitter.
I think I'm going to take my Switch and actually have my Final Fantasy screenshots start uploading to our podcast
that's a good
Twitter.
idea. I should do the
same. So we can just start doing that, and so everybody can see the absolute terror that is A, the Beehole Eater, and every other terrible thing that we think of at any time. Mm-hmm. Right now, I'm really obsessed with Silly Old Man from Final Fantasy IX.
That's a good one, yeah.
Who lets you know he needs to take a dump. That's the writing in these games is
top notch.
Top notch. Absolute top notch.
Shout outs to the localization team.
Shout out to the localization team. Tight time window, but did a magnificent job. Yep. All right. So this is our first episode. So
what are we doing here?
We should probably discuss what we're actually, what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
What people should expect from it. Do you want to, or shall I?
I'll let you take the reins.
Oh man, I love it. All right.
Unless you want me to, and I can.
We'll dual reign it. Cool. We'll put our hands on top of each other. It'll be very romantic. Oh,
for the listener, we're holding hands right now.
It's true. That's the kind of friendship that we're not. We don't just already have, but we're building here on this podcast.
Exactly.
And we're hoping to build that same relationship.
I have joined Curtis's party.
Yeah. All right. So this is gonna be a Final Fantasy book club podcast. We're gonna be doing every Final Fantasy, and our goal is to play sections of game. So this week we're going to start with the classic FF7. We figured that maybe Final Fantasy 1, if we started there, might not have enough juice, might not have enough meat to it to really be able to talk about it.
And I also know that I haven't really ever played through 1 that much, so it would be a lot more research to have things to talk about, whereas with Final Fantasy 7, I've played this game for over a decade now, so I think it's a little easier to know what's coming, and to, week by week, it makes it gives us a little more time to discuss everything.
You know what actually is great? I recently played through FF1, and what's great is there's just a plot dump in the last couple text boxes. They're like, by the way, the plot twist and everything, and you're like, oh.
So it's like a Goosebumps book where the last 3 pages just tie everything up even well.
Right, yeah. It's definitely the say cheese or die of the series.
By the way, the Black Mage was a ghost the whole time.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this podcast, what you should be able to do is you can either play with us, because we're only going to be playing a couple hours of the game a week, and we'll tell you what we're going to play up to and what we're going to do each week, so you can actually play along with us. Or if you've already played the games, you can listen along to us and kind of have a stroll down memory lane with us.
Memory Lane.
Memory Lane. It's going to be great, and we're going to be really going deep into it and really discussing the plot, the characters, some of the gameplay, and some of the implications that it has on us today, which some are great. Some are questionable.
Yep,
so
especially in this game.
FF7 comes right out of the gate. Mm-hmm. It does not waste time in being like, hey, guess what? Not all of this is aged so well. And we're going to tell you right in the first 5 minutes. And you're like, oh, well, that's fantastic. But, yeah, so additionally, if you haven't played the games at all and you really don't have the time to do it, if you listen to our podcast, you should be able to converse with your friends who love the game about it in detail. That's the kind of down into the minds of Final Fantasy. We're going to reach deep, put on our plastic gloves, and feel around for things. We're going to really get in there.
Yeah, so if we're good at our jobs, then you can steal our clout and sound like Final Fantasy masters to your friends.
That's right. It won't teach you how to play Triple Triad or Tetramaster. You'll have to practice that.
We got to keep those secrets to ourselves.
That's right, yeah. All right, so I don't know how to keep my cell phone from turning off, so I'm going to look at it and go back to my notes.
Okay. Quick sidebar about that. What is your introduction to the series of Final Fantasy? Should we do a brief history about where we started with it or anything that, or why this series?
Keep it quick.
Yeah, why we wanted to do this.
when I was younger, my parents had video game systems, and to be honest, didn't really care about them that much. I was like, this is dumb. I'm not into Mario. It's hard.
You were a jock.
Oh, yeah. 6-year-old me was like super jock, absolutely. One time at my cousin's house, I played Final Fantasy II, which is 4, but it's 2 in American, and we can get into that entire pie later.
I need to figure out that for myself, because I still don't know. I'm still confused about all that.
A localization nightmare. Yeah. But I remember going in there and playing the first couple minutes of it and being like, yo, the main character kills all these people, and then he feels terrible about it, and there's all these, like...
Spoilers for the listener.
Oh, this is going to be a spoiler-tastic podcast, by the way. We're literally talking about everything, so if you're... saving your knowledge for the remake of Final Fantasy VII, this is not for you.
Yeah.
So, the largest spoiler warning. But how about you, man?
I didn't start Final Fantasy games until I was in high school. Actually, like an older cousin of mine and my sister-in-law introduced it to me, and I remember seeing it and like it kind of blowing my mind. And I actually started with Final Fantasy VIII. And then I went back to 7.
One.
Yeah,
it's such a good one. People give it so much crap.
I love it, but it was also the first one that I played, so I feel like that I'm probably biased with that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's not the first one I played, and I also love that game so much. And when we get to it, I cannot wait for all kinds of hate mail.
Oh yeah,
and angry tweets of people saying
I'm
that
gonna be
the
like,
draw
Squall's
system...
good, actually.
Yo, hottest take. Squall's good.
Lionheart actually does 2 more hits than Omnislash, so it's a better move.
So good. All right. So would you like to start this journey into Final Fantasy VII with me?
Sure.
All right, let's do it. Do you want to begin?
Yeah, I mean,
right,
should we just start with the story? Should we talk about generalizations about the games?
I feel we'll just go ahead. I think that the generalizations and things can come as we kind of get to them.
Sure.
So I think that what we should start with is spinning around in space.
Oh, yeah.
With a bunch of cosmic whooshing sounds.
Or if you want to go even further before that, the wonderful prelude. Which, when I was playing Final Fantasy VII for the first time, I used to just, like... power on my PlayStation 2 and have that song playing for just have it loop and loop and loop until I like finally had everything ready to sit down and play it, and I would just listen to that for like 15 minutes before playing.
So when you pop in your disc to the PlayStation or PlayStation 2 system, or
so what the listener is going to have to do is open up your crystal case and pull out
your
disc
jewel
1.
Case, that's right.
The jewel case, yeah.
Yeah. Put in disc 1, and the first thing you're going to be greeted with is the start menu, which has the Final Fantasy prelude in it. It's wonderful. The title looks like it's like printed on moldy sack.
Yeah, it's very good.
And click new game, and so the first thing you're gonna see when we're opening into the world of Final Fantasy VII is gonna be space. Do you think it's space? Is that what you get?
The space or the live stream or Mako energy.
One of my notes here is so as soon as we get a couple seconds of whirling around in space, the stars turn into green embers, right? Mm-hmm. And we see the face of our first character, who we don't know yet. We don't know what her name is. Mysterious lady, and she's looking at something green, a bunch of green embers. What do you think that is?
I actually just noticed that recently too, and I was like, I don't think they really go into it, but given everything that we already know about it, I think it probably has something to do with Mako energy or the live stream.
Yeah, probably so. I was like, well, they have all this energy pumping through the city. It's probably just spurting out at some point, and she's kind of looking at it.
It's the only draw point in Final Fantasy VII. That's where you get
that's another joke that our FF8 listeners are going to really enjoy.
And everyone else is going to hate.
Yeah, right. So as soon as this unnamed character, as soon as she stands up, we see the camera start to pan out, and she walks out of a alleyway next to, I'm not even shitting you, a My Bloody Valentine poster.
Is that what that is?
It is a My Bloody Valentine poster, a live show poster.
Oh my god, that's so
for
good.
A real band.
I think I might have a screenshot of that somewhere, because I was also looking at that, and I was like, I don't know what that is.
That is absolutely what is happening there.
That is incredible.
So,
what's the album name?
I think it might be a show poster, because it says 916 on it. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah. And then it also has the giant Loveless,
Loveless on the bottom. That's right. Yeah.
I don't know specifically what it is, but I think a character who we're gonna probably talk about, a throwaway NPC, does mention it. So it's something that we'll probably talk about.
So that's the farthest you can go as a shoegaze band. If you do well enough, you might make it into a Final Fantasy game, and
oh yeah,
I think that's
the highest form of musicianship is
absolutely
either to have a complete random stranger on the internet use one of your songs as an anime music video, or to be in a Final Fantasy game.
Yeah, that's right. And I also noticed the thing across from the poster is the Goblins Bar. And
How did I miss that?
No relevance at all. And I was just like, I can come up with a joke for that, and I haven't put the work in, but it's there.
So, in like 3 weeks, in like episode 4, you're going to be the Goblin joke. Here it is.
So this character walks out of this alleyway in between these amazing pieces of art, and we kind of pan back to see the city of Midgar.
Yeah, there's a nice sweeping shot of Midgar, and while that's going through, there's quick cuts to like a train just barreling through. And another important thing to talk about, just as the series, with this series as a whole, and also just this scene in particular, is the music that's playing.
Oh my gosh, the opening bombing mission. What a soundtrack. I was joking before we started this podcast that there will be 2 things throughout our podcast that will remain sacred. Like, we're the biggest Final Fantasy fans, but I'm not afraid to shit on it. We're gonna take some dumps on this thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like it has it coming in a lot of ways. But the two sacred things, Nobuo Uematsu's soundtrack and Vivi from FF9.
Yep, exactly.
Don't want to hear anything about Vivi.
Exactly.
I'll come find you and I'll beat you. Don't you dare.
I think another thing that we should talk about pretty early on is just pronunciation. Don't correct us, because it doesn't matter. And also, like how can we know? Like
you know what?
I've been saying Mako for years, but since like learning more about
Mako. When you said it, I was like, Karl.
Well, I said Mako because just the Japanese alphabet and everything is Mako, but I don't know. I'm also not Japanese, and I only speak English, so I could just be being a tryhard right now. But and I'll probably say it different ways throughout. So
we can change it every time we say it,
and we can.
It's fine.
Jumping ahead a bit, but we'll talk about that too with the character that we're talking about, the flower girl. With her name, we're probably gonna have to talk about that too.
Okay, so. Like you said, we're getting these quick cuts of a train as we pan out and we see the entire city of Midgar, and the title appears, Final Fantasy VII. Boom, right at a very nice point, a little cadence in the music. It sounds great.
The great logo.
That awesome logo, which if you haven't seen it, just the text Final Fantasy VII and like this stylized meteor just hurtling toward Earth, right? It looks great. And then the pan out stops, and we start going a little bit closer to the city. We start zooming in onto a specific area, which is the Sector 1. Is that Sector 1?
I think it's Sector 7.
Is it Sector 7 is where they're from, but I think it's Reactor 1.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
I didn't take a note of that, so.
Oh, man, me neither. that's
but anyway.
Yeah, so we...
Don't correct us.
No, I did take a note of it. It is. It's Micro Reactor 1.
Yep.
So we started zooming into Reactor 1. And we see the train that we've been cutting to pull up into the station, and the music immediately cuts over to some just banging fight music.
Yep.
Just something's getting ready to go down.
Something's going down. It's getting very tense. It started out pretty, ambient, and suddenly things are getting tense.
Oh, yeah. And we see some characters pop out of the train. We see some other unnamed characters pop out and start kicking some guard butt, the guards at the station. And we see our second character hop off the train, which is a very large man with a gun for an arm. Is it the first black character, person of color?
I think I was researching that. I think it is the first person of color that is a playable character in a Final Fantasy series, which is.
I've wondered sometimes if Shadow from FF6 is, but this is probably the first undeniably person of color.
Yeah, especially because I feel like it's the first game where they kind of moved away from the fantasy feel and went more for like a sci-fi kind of thing.
Yeah,
more of like not like realistic, but more like, everyday kind of person thing. Right. Versus like mages and stuff like that.
Yeah. So he jumps off the train and we get our first line of dialogue, which is, hey, newcomer?
Yeah.
Follow me? And then we were introduced to our main character.
Yes, the ex-soldier.
Yeah, ex-soldier. At first, when we got into the first battle, I was like, I hit the attack, menu, and I saw the name ex-soldier, and I was like, am I fighting ex-soldiers?
Like, wow.
And I was like, oh, no, wait, that's just my name for now. Because I was like, there's no way these guys are ex-soldier. They're going down easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you get into your first couple fights with them, kind of the game, I wouldn't say it tutorializes you. It really just kind of throws you in there.
It's like an elegant tutorial, I feel like. It's a good start to a game where it's not holding your hand completely, but I actually really like the way that Final Fantasy VII tutorializes things.
Yeah.
Both in this scene where it kind of subtly does things to show you different mechanics, and also like later on when there's an explicit tutorial. I kind of like the way that they spin that, which is in this part of the game, so we can talk about that when we get there.
Right. So we beat the guards, or our characters beat the guards, walk up the stairs, and we are introduced to the group. So these are the people who got off the train all together, and we have the group Avalanche, which is a eco-terrorist organization, I suppose.
Yeah.
And they're our heroes, so it's pretty dope that we're starting out. We're like, you know what? We're the terrorists. Yeah, we're gonna be blowing up things.
Yep.
So it's pretty great. Kind of like a cool little spin. It's very sci-fi in a way. You know? 'Cause
absolutely.
That's kind of its thing. But we meet Biggs, Jesse, and Wedge, or I should say Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge.
Yep.
The two of them are from Star Wars. Like every Biggs and Wedge in every Final Fantasy game.
Yep. They're references to the Star Wars characters Biggs and Wedge, which everyone knows. So us pointing that out, it's kind of just due diligence where we're like, well, we have to. Like everyone knows it, but it's
right.
if we don't say it, people will be pissed.
That's right. And then we talk to or we see our two main characters, I suppose, Barrett and Cloud. So Cloud is kind of the main character of Final Fantasy VII. He's the one through whose eyes we're going to be seeing all these events unfold.
Yeah, he's more or less the narrator for 95% of the game. And
Right.
not narrator, but he's the one you control. Everything is kind of filtered through his mind, I guess.
Right. And the aforementioned black character who we were with, his name's Barrett. Do you remember Barrett's last name?
Wallace.
Barrett Wallace. And Barrett Wallace is in charge of Avalanche. He's in charge of this terroristic group. And we come to learn that the evil mega corporation Shinra has been draining what's called Mako from the Earth. And they're under the impression that drain enough Mako from the Earth and the planet will die. And so that's why they're in there blowing up these reactors, trying to keep the generators from sucking it out.
Yep, keep the world from dying, which is a noble cause. You would think.
Right.
All
right. Well, how about take us through the next little bit?
Sure thing. So let's see. So you're kind of just going through the reactor here, or trying to get to the reactor, and there's a little bit of dialogue back and forth from the characters. Like Biggs, one of the characters who's in Avalanche, he's saying like, "Oh wow, like I can't believe this guy used to be in Soldier," and you don't really see people like that fighting for something like Avalanche anymore. And this gives you a little bit of an idea of like what Cloud's what his motivations are.
Yeah, and it's also the first time I think we're introduced to the idea of Soldier, isn't it?
Yeah, they kind of another thing that they do is they kind of just throw things at you and don't really explicitly say like, oh, Soldier is this military operation.
Right.
They just kind of like you gather it as you go along, and it's known to all of these characters. It's known that Cloud is an ex-soldier. So
yeah, it's good storytelling.
Yeah,
and so when we say soldier in FF7, we don't necessarily mean just like a soldier.
We mean
like,
all capital.
Yeah, all capital letters. Soldier, which is it's a Shinra high mercenary group. So it's kind of their like top of the line greatest soldiers that they have. So these are the dudes who can take out platoons by themselves, like these kind of like supermen, I guess.
Yeah, so Jessie, one of the members of Avalanche, is actually like pretty surprised that Cloud was in Soldier, and she's like, oh, like that's crazy, aren't they the enemy of us?
Yeah.
And Cloud mentions that he doesn't care like at all what anyone in this group's names actually are. And he's like, yeah, I'm just here to do the job, and I'm gonna, after this is all said and done, I'm just taking my money and leaving. So it becomes pretty obvious that Cloud is only in this for the money. He doesn't necessarily care about what Avalanche is doing or the planet, and then he explicitly says that he doesn't really care.
Yeah, he's standoffish at minimum.
Yeah. So he's a mercenary that was hired by this eco-terrorist group, Avalanche, to go on this bombing mission against this Mako reactor.
Mm-hmm. So we run into the facility. We get to an elevator. Where Jesse tells us to go hit that big button, and we have some of the best just 3D animation of any game. It's just great, like a little so everybody in this game has like what I call Popeye arms.
Yeah,
it's
that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah, it's like low polygon characters, but like they're forearms are just ginormous. They're incredible, and you do these silly little swings to hit buttons. It's like really a silly fluid animation. It's really good.
There's a lot of really good animations like that.
Yeah.
That just kind of express like the characters a little more than just.
Yeah.
Because there's a couple different ways that this game handles cutscenes. There's like the opening FMV, which is just full CGI rendering and like really good for especially for the time. Really like those graphics really hold up. Now, with these like Popeye arm field models. Like a lot of people think that those don't hold up. I like them. I have nostalgia for them.
Yeah.
But another thing I'll say is I've been playing this for the show on my Switch.
We both have, yeah.
And it's like I think it's like a remastered one where even like they keep it true to the like the low poly goodness of the Popeye Arms models, like the little Lego characters that you're controlling around, but it's also remastered in a way that like they smooth out some of the edges and some of the textures on the face. I feel like have been were a lot nicer. So Absolutely. I think that actually makes it easier to like recommend to people who might not have nostalgia for the game. Because it's like it's weird and of its time, but it's not like unbearable. Like
right. No, yeah, I think they did a very good job for the remaster. I really do. So our characters go down the elevator, we step out, and we get the feeling that we're going deeper and deeper into this facility. You know, we're like really getting into it. And there's smokestacks everywhere and caution tape all over everything. And we're kind of going into what I call like the gray space, right? Like we're going on catwalks and taking maintenance ladders to kind of get where we need. And eventually we come to it, kind of the control panel, the main Mako reactor, number 1 Mako reactor, right? And so so we get to it. And one thing I noticed about this, so this game came out in 97, is that right? I
think so.
There's a big 1998 right on the control panel, and I was like, nice, future proofing it, like, make it so that when we play this in the future, we're like, how modern, 1998, love it.
Well, this game takes place in the future. Shit goes down in the next year.
right. So we've all lived through 1998. We remember all these explosions.
We all survived.
That's right. So we plant the bomb, and do we get the materia first, or do we get the watch out voice first?
I think it's the watch out voice first. But I think you have materia, but you don't explicitly like pick it up anywhere. It's like a weird thing too that I was like, wait, I can use certain spells. Yeah. We should probably also just explain for people who don't know what materia is.
When we talk about grabbing it, that's when we'll go.
Okay, yeah.
So we'll do that in like a couple seconds, I think.
Sure.
Yeah, So a thing that's going to be happening multiple times as we go through this game is Cloud has these voices in his head. He has like, it almost looks like he's suffering from like a migraine or something where he like goes down on one knee or both knees and holds his head and kind of shakes.
There's like a high-pitched like noise, like a tinnitus sort of noise that's happening, and things are flashing, screen's going red a little bit.
Right, and he hears these voices talking to him. So as soon as he sets the bomb on the reactor to blow it up, he gets this voice that says, "Watch out, this isn't just a reactor." And his compatriots, who right now is just Barrett, is just with us right now. Right. The other ones kind of took up stations at different points in the...
they're on guard duty.
They're on guard duty in the facility, keeping soldiers from coming after us. Soldiers, lowercase.
Those MPs.
Yeah, the MPs, yep. And as soon as we stand up, we get our first boss battle. And so one of the security robots has been called on us, and we have our first boss battle on our hands. So why don't you go ahead and begin with that?
Yeah, so this is a pretty notorious boss battle, too, I feel like, in a lot of ways. I mean,
in a lot of ways, yeah.
This is a big step into, like, the RPG world with, it was a massive game, and this is the first boss that you encounter. And I think the most notable thing that we have to talk about is the weird, like, tutorializing thing where they're, like, trying to show you that certain situations can happen in a battle, and it might not, it'll affect how you strategize for it. Right. And one thing that happens is...
do we talk about what the boss looks like?
No.
Okay,
Again,
so let's explain the boss, and then that'll make this make more sense.
Yeah.
So the boss is a gigantic robotic scorpion called the Guard Scorpion.
Yep.
And so it's like... really, what else can you say about it? It's
right there in the name.
It's right there in the name. So it's standing on 6 of its legs. 2 of its legs are up in the air, operating as like punching machines and guns. And then it has a big long tail with these like metal spikes coming off of the back. And again, for like what I would consider maybe a low poly-ish game, like it's got a lot going on. There's a lot of mechanics on this guy.
Yeah, and these battle scenes they're not like the little Popeye arm models. They're like the fully rendered like actual human looking models.
Right.
And it looks good.
Yep. All right, so tell us about this tutorial that's so legendary.
Yeah, so the Guard Scorpion has this phase that it can go into just like randomly throughout the battle. I think it might be timing based, but it'll lift up its tail, And let me see if I have the exact.
I have the words on screen.
So if you want to, if you want to read those.
So to tell you that in certain states, bosses may react differently, the thing that they're trying to get across to you is that if you attack while this boss has its tail in the air, it's going to counterattack you. So maybe you should lay off while it's in that stance and wait for it to go back to normal stance. So while its tail's up over its head, Barrett tells Cloud...
I think is it Cloud tells Barrett or
is it probably is Cloud tells Barrett.
Yeah.
You're probably right. My mistake.
No, it's all good. I think there's a lot of that where it's like Cloud because he's the soldier. He gives people.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Cloud says, "Attack while its tail is up."
Pause, and that's all that's on the screen.
And that's the text box.
That's the text box on the screen. Attack while its tail is up, and that stays up there for 2 or 3 seconds.
And then you hit. Yeah.
And so if you are a person playing Final Fantasy for the first time, you can go ahead and select, all right, attack. Absolutely. Attack while its tail's up. That's what he just told me to do.
Yep.
Hit attack, you hit the scorpion, you go through the attack animation, and then immediately afterwards, he finishes his sentence, and it's going to counterattack with the laser. So the full sentence is, attack while its tail's up, it's going to counterattack with the laser.
Which even that, even taken as that, it sounds like you can interpret that in different ways. You can say attack while its tail's up. It's going to counterattack with its laser. He's not saying don't would really help.
There's an exclamation point after the first part.
Because even if you read it as that, it sounds like, oh, okay, I need to attack while the tail up, or else it's going to
because it is 2 different sentences. They don't put a comma, they put an exclamation mark. Attack while its tail's up. That's what he's telling you to do.
Yeah.
And so if you're like me or many other people, you're like, yeah, I got this motherfucker. I'm gonna hit him.
I know the weakness now.
Yeah, and so you just crank both of your characters out, you hit them both twice, and then you just get 2 of these saucy lasers.
And it does
right in your face.
It does a significant amount of damage too. It hits all of your party members, which is just Cloud and Barrett at this point. But
you can survive through. You can survive through them, but if you haven't been healing or anything, it could be the end for you.
Yeah, I think you can probably take 2 or 3 of those hits.
Yeah,
but even still, it's a pretty close battle. Especially this early in the game where you're still getting used to the system of how to.
Yeah, I could see if you hadn't been into RPGs or anything like that, and you were kind of taking it slow, and then you get this thing.
Yeah,
that's almost controller throwing rage right there. I was like, what do you mean?
I think the first time I actually played Final Fantasy VII was right around when it came out. I was just playing on my older brother's PlayStation, and that was my choke point.
Really?
Yeah. I never really got into Final Fantasy until I was a teenager, but I remember explicitly playing it when I was 7 or 8 and getting to that and seeing attack while it's tail up and just getting decimated and not understanding that you had to save in that game and starting from the beginning and being like, well, this game sucks.
Oh no. You gotta go through all the cutscene in the beginning again?
Just everything.
Oh, that's tragic.
Yep.
That is tragic.
Yep.
Oh man. Well, what a boss. What a boss. God Scorpion. Guard Scorpion.
So, a couple other notes about this boss fight. It's weak to bolt damage, which pretty much I think every mechanical enemy is. So Cloud has bolt magic, so it's easy to just kind of, pepper him with those and attack with Barrett or
right.
And then after you beat him, he drops the assault gun, which is a weapon that Barrett can equip.
Mm-hmm. And then a 10-minute timer starts. So that's how long the bomb has before it's going to go off, and you have to do a little end of Super Metroid kind of deal where you're running out of the facility.
Yep.
And I think you could probably get out of the facility in a minute and a half. Or something. It's very, very lenient.
Very generous.
Yeah, extremely so.
The first time you play through it, you don't realize that, and you're just freaking out.
Yeah, because I am at the beginning of the game. There's still enemies coming to fight me and everything, and I have 10 minutes. And that includes the fights, too. The counter is still ticking. It's still ticking while you're in menus as well.
Yep. Exactly. And that's funny too. I notice a lot of times when I play JRPGs, I don't know if this is just a weird thing that I do, but I kind of obsess over the system time or the game time.
Yeah.
And I always like it when a game, when you can pause it and it pauses the system time.
Right.
Which actually does kind of have a mechanical benefit in Final Fantasy VII. I don't know about the remakes that they did, but there used to be a thing where if you got to 99 minutes or 99 hours and 99 seconds, it would just freeze there because that was the top of the counter.
Yeah.
And that's not really too big of a problem, but one of the mini games, which is pretty significant, the Chocobo breeding one, you actually have to wait a certain amount of time
Get
before
out.
you can. So
Oh,
if you max out your
All right,
time there,
we'll get to that terror later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later because that's a whole.
But you do have this timer going on, and you're running out. On the way out, you see Jessie from earlier, and she's kind of doing this little dance, this little shuffle on one of the catwalks. And I've never missed it, and I don't know anybody who has missed it, but you could.
Yeah.
You could just walk by. So she's actually got her foot caught.
Yep.
And needs your help to loosen her foot from that little trap.
Yeah, you need to go up to her and just hit the interaction button with her and free her from that so she can escape with you.
And then she does a full 5-foot jump over top of you to run away because she has gams.
Yep.
She has the gams to make them jumps.
I feel like this is also a characterization of Jessie that kind of happens over and over again, which I'm not sure if it's something that necessarily holds up well or if it's me just overthinking it, or she kind of seems to be in this sort of situation a lot.
Yeah, kind of a damsel kind of
Yeah,
character. Yeah.
which...
And I mean, like, you get a little bit of hint that, like, you know, she's smart and she's in this team and she's making all of these devices, but every time she interacts with Cloud specifically, she's very giddy around him, and you're kind of always saving her from something, or she's apologizing, or... Yeah.
So, you know, it could be just whatever.
It probably played a little bit better in 97, but...
different time.
So you save her, you continue running out. Biggs and Jessie actually have the passwords for the doors on the way out.
And if you do miss Jessie and you get to the section where you need a password, they'll say, "Where's Jessie? She has the password." So you
really? Is that what happens?
So it's not like she doesn't like die in the explosion or anything like that. You just have to, I think,
go back.
I'm pretty sure. I usually get her, but I was looking it up to see like, what happens if there's a fail condition.
I was wondering about that.
So I think you go, you know, and again, there's a timer going, so even by doing that, you still have plenty of time to escape. Yeah. But
because you're in the last area of that when you're,
and it's a pretty small area. So, but you can get there, and they can say, "Where's Jessie?" And then you have to go back and get her, and then get back, and then you get through this door.
Right. So you run out. You get to see the Mako reactor explode in a blaze of glory. You know, as our heroes narrowly dodge the blast. You know, they run into this small hallway or whatever to get away from the fire. And the whole thing goes up. We pan back out too to see the city, and we see it engulfed in flames. We see the one reactor in that section engulfed in flames. Yeah, it's very cool. It's very cool.
And another important detail on that is another reason why Jessie's so crucial to the team is she actually arms like an exit point with explosives, because I think you're blocked in. So she just goes up, puts down some explosives and blows it up, and then that's your escape route. Right.
And so that's how we get out and back into, I guess, the city proper.
Yep.
And so once we're in the city proper, Cloud talks to Barrett and says, "All right, I've done your job. It's about time that you pay me now." Mm-hmm. And Barrett says, you just wait till we get back to our hideout, and then you can be paid. You know, don't go."
there's another good bit of just those little tiny animations that give some more character to everyone, where it's when everyone escapes from the reactor and there's like the explosion. Wedge runs out and he's like holding his butt, like either like it's on fire
because he pats his butt afterwards.
So he's just like running back and forth, and just like a goofy little thing that there's a lot of serious stuff going on, especially in this scene. Mm-hmm. But it's nice that they can always sprinkle in a little bit of like slapstick,
and they do it consistently throughout the game,
and it lands.
It definitely does. It definitely does.
Barrett says, we got to rendezvous at the Sector 8 station, split up, and get on the train.
Yep.
So you got to make your way to the train. Everyone goes their own way, and so you're just in this one screen. And when you go to the next screen, it shows a little cutscene where there's a bunch of NPCs running around, and they're just frantic because
Did two of them bump into each other?
I think one actually bumps into the character from from the intro cutscene.
That's right. Oh yeah, so we have.
So she gets knocked over, and then
our intro cutscene character is back. So the girl we were talking about at the very beginning, who we kind of panned out to the city about, is back. Yeah.
So then you see Cloud walk out, and it shows the flower girl, and she's wondering what happened.
Right, and so this flower girl, and I'm gonna make my statement now. This is the best character in the game.
Yeah.
This is the best character, and we still don't get her name yet.
Right.
So, but she asks Cloud, "Hey, what happened? Why is everybody running around? What's going on?"
Yeah.
And you have two options here that you can say. I don't remember do you remember the text for the options?
Yep. It's you better get out of here or nothing. Hey.
Nothing. Hey. Yeah. And so
you can either be serious and, respond to the situation as you should, or you can be like, "Yo, what's up, girl?"
Yeah, I don't know. Which I've always picked the latter one. Which,
Yeah.
What's funny is I never really like coded it as like, "Hey, what's up?" Although Cloud does put his hands on his hips though, very sassy.
I think it's a flirtatious thing, especially.
I think you're probably right.
I think it plays into something that happens much later, where this choice makes
right,
which I don't know if we want to talk about yet or
when we get to it.
Yeah. So that'll be episodes from now. But there's a lot of choices like this that seem to be like, oh well, what's this about?
Right.
But it makes sense later.
So if you do choose, nothing. Hey, the flirtatious option.
Is that the one you went with?
That's all I always go with.
Okay, because I went with the business one.
Does she actually leave if you say that?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, she just says, "Oh, okay, I don't really know what's going on, but see you later."
Okay, well, if you decide to talk to her, you have another option right after that, and one of them is to say like, "Oh, hey, you have flowers here," because she's kind of carrying a basket full of flowers.
Right.
And she goes, "Oh yeah, I sell these around town. They're only one gil. Gil's money in the Final Fantasy universe." She goes, "Oh, they're only one gil. Do you want one?" And you can choose to go ahead and buy one, and which. If you're playing the game along with us, you should buy one. Yeah. Because it lends to a neat little scene here in a little while.
Or you can do what I did and not buy one, and then she kind of calls you out for not buying one later.
I don't even know that. So when we get to that, you'll have to talk about it. Yeah.
I think that's in this episode, too. So
oh, really? Okay. Yeah. So after that, she'll walk off. So you'll either tell her, go ahead and get out of here, and she'll go off, or you'll buy a flower from her, and she'll walk off then. And you get to walk through a little bit of the sector where Mecha Reactor 1 is at. And just like most of Midgar, it's kind of run down.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I wouldn't say destroyed. It looks like a future, like a cyberpunk dystopian city.
Yes, absolutely.
One thing that I noticed that I never noticed before is that there's a giant poster for Mount Colt. And that is an area from Final Fantasy VI.
Oh, nice.
I never noticed that before.
That's really cool. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I see that there. I have a screenshot here for something else where you can interact with certain like NPCs here. And one of them, I think he's reading off graffiti that's spray painted somewhere. And it says, don't be fooled by Shinra. Mako energy doesn't last forever. Mako is the planet's life source. The end is in sight. Protectors of the planet, Avalanche.
Right, so our eco-terrorist group that we're part of is also...
So I guess while we were planting the bomb, maybe that's what Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse were doing.
We're spray painting.
It was like, let's tag this place.
Right, and kind of warning everybody about the dangers of Shinra and the Mako reactor. There's another person... actually, that's on the train here. I'll get to that when we get to the train. But, you were saying when we're going to the train, so I'll let you pick up from there.
You get to the next screen, and you're just about at the train platform, and... there was a bunch of Shinra soldiers right behind you. And you have the option to fight them, or you can just select the later. option and just take off. I always fight them.
I always say later.
Yeah.
I always run away. We're going to have a lot of good ones about this.
I feel like we should coordinate it so we can both speak to our own.
Right.
But I think a lot of the choices, too, like there's many branching paths.
Yeah.
So you can do that. And there's like 3 rounds of that where you can fight the first ones, and then you move down and you start going to the left, and more soldiers come out, and you can fight them, or later... and it's just 3 rounds of that, and then eventually you're surrounded.
Right. And once you're surrounded, it looks like there's nowhere you can go, and all of a sudden the train goes underneath the bridge that you're on at that point that they cornered you on, and Cloud does his action hero jump to the train, and he makes it out of there. And we cut to a picture of inside the train where Barrett, Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge, the Avalanche gang, is all hanging out, and they all look a little crestfallen, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah,
they think that Cloud's gotten captured, maybe he's been killed, or something like that.
Jesse seems pretty broken up about it. She just is musing, and she just says, "Cloud."
Yeah, Cloud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Biggs is actually like, the first thing he says is he's like, "Oh, do you think Cloud is gonna like stay with Avalanche like now that this job's done?" And Barrett's like, "How the hell should I know?"
So I was watching, and I'll go ahead and do a little call out to another series. Kotaku has a series called Let's Mosey.
Oh, nice.
And they kind of talk about the translation. And so I would highly recommend everybody go listen to that or watch that. It's fantastic. He kind of goes into what the different translations are, right? What's changed about our translation.
Yeah.
And here, when he says... People are the various members of Avalanche are asking Barrett, do you think Cloud survived? Do you think he's going to fight for Avalanche? And in specific, when they ask if they think Cloud made it, do you think he survived? Barrett said, in Japanese, he says, there's no way he's going to die before he's paid.
Oh, that's so good.
Right. And so, in our version, we kind of get, what is it?
Yeah, he gets a... it's a similar, I feel like a similar sentiment, but he kind of just... it's not as fleshed out.
It's not as fleshed out. It's not as cool as that. Being he's not going to die before he gets paid. He only cares about his money. Getting his money from this job.
An interesting thing about it, though, that I made note of is that when he's talking about, do you think he's going to join up with us? Barrett says, if you all weren't such screw-ups, which I don't know how to take that.
Yeah.
Because it's if you all weren't such screw-ups, A, we wouldn't need Cloud, or is it, if you all weren't such screw-ups, you wouldn't embarrass me and you'd want to join our cool club?
Yeah. Well, you do get the, Barrett's a bit of a dad, man. He's a bit daddy.
Yeah. He's also explicitly a dad.
Yeah, as well, yeah. And he kind of treats his members of Avalanche like that and kind of gives them heck. But we hear some knocking on the outside of the train, and it's kind of funny because the first time you hear the knock, all the characters kind of look around and
they don't
decide that it was nothing, and they just go back to looking around. Yeah. And then you hear it again, and Cloud flips in through the side of the train. So he's back, and everybody's excited.
He hams it up a bunch.
He hams it up. Everybody says...
Barrett calls him out on it.
Yeah, and as soon as they see him, everybody says, Cloud, ! Except for Jessie, who says, Cloud, ... And so, again...
It's pretty obvious that she's got a crush.
Right. And so Barrett says, we've completed this mission. We're going to move up in the train. Everybody follow me. Right, because right now they're in a freight car, so I guess they're gonna go sit on the benches and everything.
Yeah, exactly. They're making their way downtown,
moving fast. They are homebound. They're all of those things. Oh my goodness. They're not going 1,000 miles though.
No, unfortunately.
So we get up into the train car, and one of my favorite things about the train car. So Barrett runs in. Right, he runs into that train car, and kind of is this where he forces everybody to clear out?
I think
that's the second.
No, yeah, that's when they get to the bar. But he walks in and everyone there
flops down, right?
They all come running in and everyone sees them and they're like, "Yo, we got to get out of here." So
pretty
much everyone just books it into the next car, including who I wrote down a note that just said that the crust punks wanted nothing to do.
The crust punks run away. Yeah, they all leave the train car that we're coming to. One of my favorite characters is in this, who is the homeless man living on the train.
Yeah.
Who, when you talk to him, just says, "Hey, welcome to my home. Make yourselves at home. This is where I live."
Yeah,
and I love that man.
Yeah, and I wrote the same thing. I was like, a welcoming homeless man on the train says that you're the only one who talks to him and that you're welcome to stay in his home.
Yeah, it's very nice. I was like, what? I want to know about the adventures of that man. Yeah, that's what I want in the FF remake.
He's probably seen some shit. Yeah. Yeah. All of disc 1 of the remake is just going to be that guy's stories.
Yeah, exactly. How did he get there? There's also a very interesting line here where someone says, "Did you see the headlines in the Shinra Times?"
I also made note of that.
Okay, so what's happened is in the newspaper, they've already printed an article about how Avalanche blew up Reactor 1. How did the daily newspaper already have that?
It's breaking news. They stopped the presses.
I was like, they must have e-readers or must have smartphones in this world.
Oh yeah,
because they're already like, oh, did you see the headlines in the Shinra
and this
Times?
Guy who's on a train,
right?
The same train that the terrorists are escaping on. Has the Shinra
it just
Times.
Happened. It just happened.
I didn't even think of that. I just made note of how hilarious it is that it's called the Shinra Times.
right. But I noticed that I was like, that's very odd. But yeah, so there's a newspaper with details of events that you just did maybe 5 minutes ago. And then we get more characterization from Jessie as well, where she kind of tells Cloud as you approach the front of the train, she's like, "Hey, come look at this monitor with me. Like, I'll teach you a little bit about Midgar." And, Cloud kind of stands up and does his sassy hand on his hip pose. And, and she goes, no. Come closer, step closer, and so you do get a little bit of this feeling like, okay, Jessie definitely has the hots for Cloud here. Yeah.
I think that's another, no, there's something that happens later. Never mind. Getting ahead of myself.
Okay, well, yeah, why don't you take it from there?
But yeah, it's also you were correct, it is the number 1 reactor.
Okay.
And this is a funny thing that I saw where when they're looking at the monitor, I think it's Jessie who says, "Psst, like the number one reactor we blew up was in the northern section. It's like, you probably shouldn't be talking at all about that. Like, you should probably be a little more low key. Like, I get you're like hyped and the adrenaline flowing and stuff. But maybe not talk about the terrorist attack you just committed.
Yeah. We also do learn about the way Midgar's built here, the city of Midgar.
Yep.
So the city of Midgar is 2-tiered. There's kind of a the ground on which everyone here on Earth lives, right? And then above everybody living on the ground is a large, what they call a pizza. It's like a large disc.
Yeah, it's a giant plate that is pretty much where like all of the people with money essentially go.
Right. And so they all live up there on top of that plate, and it blocks out sunlight for the people on the bottom. It causes their crops not to be able to grow.
Yep. Tons of smog and just pollution that just filters down to what are then known as the slums.
Right.
And another important characteristic about Midgar, which is pretty sad and shows you just how like crappy this world has gotten, is that each town that was under like each plate used to have a name, but no one in Midgar remembers them. So all of these places used to have names, but then like Shinra just kind of took over, made these plates, and made everything so miserable that people don't even remember what their home is called.
You know, I think this may be a good time to talk about this too. So Shinra, the organization that's pumping Mako out of the earth and everything, thus far they've kind of been classified as bad guys, and I think rightly so. And I think it's interesting that in this world they're a company and a government at the same time. So they're like an independent organization. Like they're a capitalist corporation is what they are, but they have so much power that they're able to separate people and say like, oh, well, these people work for Shinra so they can live on the top plate because they're our employees, and everybody else has to live in the slums.
And just even going into that, just to kind of show a little bit more how much power Shinra has. Like when you're fighting these guards, they're called MPs, which is for military police. So you're in Shinra, and it's like they're either hiring the military or they just straight up control the military. Right. So,
and we don't get any sense, I don't think, of any other government, in Midgar. It's just the company.
It's pretty much just, and just given how everything is, like where the townspeople don't even remember their names, like this is just Shinra. This is just Shinra's territory.
Right, yeah. So we get a real kind of latest stage capitalism kind of vibe here. And so, really crappy living for a lot of people, a lot of our heroes, right, who are living in the slums and kind of going around under there. One thing I pointed out is that they say that the pizza is 50 meters in the air. And so I looked that up on Google, and I said, how tall is 50 meters? The Leaning Tower of Pizza is 50 meters. Oh. And I said pizza, but the Leaning Tower of Pizza is 50 meters. And so, like, if you can imagine seeing the Leaning Tower and it's a little taller, so it's a little bit shorter. So the plate is a little bit shorter than that, but that is your sky. Yeah. That is just absolute blackness, machine, metal, all the way up. You have no sun.
You're just under that. Yep.
You're under that plate 24/7. That's where you live now. Yep. Yeah. And so that's actually
pretty bleak.
It's not as tall as I was thinking, too. And I think it's kind of reflected a little bit later here, too. Yeah. But yeah, so it's kind of a...
Nice. That's
kind of a sad area. So... All right, so I guess the train ride comes to an end. Is there anything else you wanted to say about the train?
Yeah, I think there's I can't remember if this is the part. I don't think this is the part with the. There's another part with the train with the security checks, right?
Yes, right. Yeah, we're gonna.
So yeah, I mean, I think we can pretty much just blow through the rest of this. There's more dialogue back and forth.
Yeah, let's start. Let's pick it up too a little bit. Sure. So we're just kind of like we can smash through it a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. So, so we pull up and we're in the Sector 5 slums, is that right? No, Sector 7. Sector 7, my mistake. Yeah, so the train pulls into Sector 7 slums. All the gang and their goofiness kind of jump out of the train, they're all running around doing all kinds of silly stuff, running into each other. We get a very this is a very friendly Scooby-Doo gang of eco-terrorists.
Yeah,
right?
Scrappy little crew.
Exactly, yeah, and they're all kind of being silly. And Barrett says, hey, everybody gather up. We're going to go meet at our hideout. So everybody there on the double, and so we started booking it over there. Now, do we want to... Is this the craziest scene in all Final Fantasy? Is this where we talk to Shinra guards and they...
I think it's a little after this, yeah.
A little after this, okay. Okay. We got some hilarious things that aren't hilarious, troubling things that Shinra guards say, and it is those guards though, right?
Yeah,
it's the same ones. So we pass some Shinra guards.
So the first ones you see, there's it's pretty much just blocking you off from going south, and there's two guards there, and the one is like a real hard ass, and he's like, don't you know who I am? You can't come here. And then the other guy is obviously like kind of a newbie who's he's like, oh wow, that was awesome, or like he's like, oh yeah, see, that's how it's done.
I actually have it. He says, well, wow, you're great.
Yeah. So this guy's on training duty, and he's like kind of hamming it up, being like, oh, don't you know who I am? Like you can't pass here. And then you talk to the other guy, and he tries doing that, and it's way less effective.
Yeah,
it's kind of just,
it is super silly.
He's stuttering his words, and he's just like, oh, like like don't come over here, man.
Yeah, he's he's the small guy on campus for sure.
Yep.
So we arrive in the Sector 7 slum, the actual slum itself. We've been walking from the train station, and Barrett immediately runs to this bar and is like, here's the bar we're gonna be in, and you hear gunfire coming from inside the bar, and a bunch of people who I assume are just at the bar.
Yeah, just people
just having a drink, come running out. Oh no, because Barrett goes in there and is shooting bullets everywhere, being like, "Get out of here! Get out of my bar!"
A lot of unpaid tabs.
A lot of unpaid tabs left.
Out, yep. So Barrett runs in, shoots a bunch, and scares everyone away.
Yep.
And that's actually, you actually have the first instance of seeing Tifa when that happens. In all the chaos, she kind of just comes out and runs out onto the porch and then runs back in.
Oh, really? I didn't even see that. I didn't even notice that. Oh,
Yep.
That's interesting. But no, there's a bunch of stuff you could do here. You could go to the tutorial area.
Yeah.
And it's probably not worth getting super into, but I will say what I think is funny, kind of you alluded to this earlier, that Cloud is the soldier. He all caps soldier, right? So when you go to the tutorial area, instead of the people in the tutorial area teaching you how to play the game, they all go, Cloud, can you please tell me how to do XYZ? And then your character, Cloud, is actually teaching them.
Exactly. I really liked that bit. I also liked in the tutorial part where they kind of give characteristics to the objects and stuff. It's like, I'm a treasure chest.
Yeah,
like,
the treasure chest with the big flappy mouth. Yeah, it's so funny.
Very good.
It is really good. They ham it up a big time there.
Oh, yeah.
So we run into the bar. The name of the bar
Seventh
is
Heaven.
Seventh Heaven.
Really laying it on thick with the 7 references.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And inside we meet our third playable character. Is that right? So that is Tifa Lockhart, is that right? Yep. So she's the bartender at Seventh Heaven and also a member of Avalanche. So we get real quick, right off the bat, we get the feeling that like, okay, Tifa and Cloud are kind of something.
Yeah, they know each other. They have some sort of history.
They have some sort of history, and I feel like they're landed on pretty thick with like the knowing flirtatiousness where they're like, haha, we obviously kind of like each other, but we're not going to make a big deal out of it. Like, we're here to do a job, but not afraid to be like, a little flirty with each other well, right? Where she's the bartender, and so you get one of my favorite lines in Final Fantasy VII when she asks, do you want something to drink? Which is, give me something hard.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Also, I think I think at this point it's playing Tifa's theme, which is like one of
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But I mean, everyone's back there. You're finally at your rendezvous point, and there's also a little girl running around.
Marlene. So we meet Barrett's daughter, right? And so Barrett's daughter, Marlene, works at the bar, which is hilarious because you see her bartending.
Yep. When everyone's getting ready to leave, she actually becomes the bartender.
She's the bartender, yeah. And so she may be like 6.
Yeah, like 5 or 6.
5 or 6 years old bartending, yeah. But if you bought the flower from Aeris earlier, when you meet Marlene, Tifa will then say, is that flower for me? And you get an option of giving it to Tifa or giving it to Marlene.
Oh, nice.
And so you can actually give Marlene the flower who's scared of you because, she's a little girl and you're like this angry mercenary, right?
Yeah.
So she's a little scared of you, and that kind of like makes her feel a little bit better, even though she takes it from you and runs away.
Yeah.
So as soon as Barrett comes storming into the room right after this, he picks Marlene up. He's super excited to see her, puts her on his shoulder, and says, hey, where'd you get that flower? And she goes, oh, well, Mr. Cloud gave it to me. And then there's a pause, because he's kind of pissed at Cloud for being such a dick all the time, And there's a pause, and he just goes, did you thank him? and she, like, looks away for a second, and then turns around and goes, thank you, Cloud. That's very sweet.
That's really, so if you don't have the flower, she's just scared of you and just kind of runs away. And I think Tifa says something like, oh, Marlene is shy.
Yeah, she says that as well if you give her the flower. She just goes, oh, Marlene is shy. So that's super cute.
Yeah, so they meet up into their secret base.
Right. One comment before they go into secret base. And to me, it goes along with the fact that there was a My Bloody Valentine poster earlier. above the secret hatch that goes down to the base. Mm-hmm. There's a sign that says Texas.
Yep. There's a sign that says draft beer, and then under that, in a different color.
Draft beer, Texas.
Texas.
But FF7 is on Earth. It's canon.
Mm-hmm.
Like it takes place
Might
here.
even be in America.
Yeah, we could absolutely dive into that. So they go down there and...
to get to the secret base, there's a pinball machine that I couldn't make out all of it, but it says cowboy something. There's some sort of cowboy pinball machine that I think Barrett just like slams his fist on it and then it goes down.
Yeah.
So you go and there's like a weird elevator thing on this pinball machine that brings you down to the secret area of the base.
So they have a little debriefing section where Barrett asks Cloud, was there anybody from Soldier fighting us today? And Cloud kind of smartly mouths off to him.
He's just like, dude, you wouldn't be here if there was anyone from Soldier there.
Yeah, right. If there was anybody from Milo Group, none of us would be alive. Like that's how hardcore, it's how badass Soldier is. So we're already getting like this characterization of everybody from Soldier as being unkillable, right? Yeah. So it's super scary. And Cloud demands his money, right? He says, "I want my money now." And I think Barrett pays him right here, right?
Yeah.
And
Cloud's like underwhelmed with how much it's paid.
Right. Yeah, he's underwhelmed with it, and he's
like, "You got to be kidding me."
He uses
I think it's
that
1,000 gil.
Yeah, but he also uses that as a way to kind of not seem like he's caring about being with this Avalanche group, and he goes, "So next time I want this much money," is the next thing he says. Yeah. And so Jesse and Tifa and everybody are like, "Oh, okay, so you are going to come with us for our next mission. Okay, you're not just going to leave us and get out of here, whatever."
Yeah.
Even though, Barrett immediately is like, "Whoa, what the heck? You did take all my money." Yeah. He's demanding so much money. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think this is the scene where Tifa talks about the promise.
Right. So, yeah, why don't you go into that?
Sure. So let's see here. So yeah, like Cloud's just kind of being an asshole, kills everyone's buzz, and he's ready to leave after he gets paid. And Tifa stops him and says that he forgot his promise from 7 years ago. And then you get this little flashback scene where it's like younger Cloud, young Tifa, who I think she might be wearing a cowboy hat in this scene.
No,
that's not this one. Oh, she's wearing a dress.
Yeah, the dress.
She's in like a green dress. And Cloud's talking about how he's going to leave town and join Soldier and accomplish great things. And he also says that he's going to be like Sephiroth.
Yeah,
I believe it's the first name drop of Sephiroth.
Yep, that's the first time we hear about him.
Tifa also says that all the boys are leaving town, which in my head, I just can't not hear the riff from...
Thin Lizzy.
Yep, exactly.
The boys are leaving town!
Yeah. So, yeah, and I think the promise that she's talking about is basically just when he gets big and famous like Sephiroth and is a strong soldier, anytime she's in a bind, he'll come and save her.
Right.
And she says, I just want that once. Like I want to experience that once for if I'm in a bind, my hero comes to save me. Right. Some very cute shit. Yeah, and then Cloud, in true, like, he's still kind of an asshole form. He goes, "Well, I'm not famous, so the promise is null and void." Like, right, yeah. I didn't do what I said I was going to do. I dropped out of soldier school. Right. So yeah, it's very, very Cloud to do that. Yeah. So we're on our way now. We're going to be going on our second mission, right? Mm-hmm. It's very much like the first. Following day. Going on the next mission, and we are going to Sector 4, is that? I think it's 5 this time. It's 5 this time, okay, yeah. We'll have better notes next time. I know. Well, the train, it was funny as the train says it's on its way to Sector 4, and we'll arrive at 11:45. I read that, and I was like, Sector 4, and then Sector 5 pops up from there on out. So I think they are going to blow up the Mako reactor above Sector 5. Yeah. I think you're right about that. Yeah. Something. Yeah, and on the way to the train station, you can talk to those two soldiers again, which is something we have to bring up. Okay, yeah, I think it's a different shift of soldiers because they have completely different character, like personalities. And this is probably the first instance. Well, not the first. If we include Jesse, it's not the first instance, but the first instance of something that definitely doesn't play as well. Yep. Yeah, so you can talk to them, and the one guard is saying that he has tickets to Loveless and asks if the other guy wants to go. I didn't even see that he had tickets to Loveless. And I was like, oh, Loveless. So it's Loveless is probably a gentleman's club. That's not what we're talking about. Or it could be the My Bloody Valentine album. Yeah. When you talk to the other guy, or I guess Loveless might actually be a band. That probably makes way more sense. My mind is an MBV album. Could be.
We're gonna find that out next time. We're gonna know for sure.
Hey,
by the way,
we're gonna crack this
we have an
mystery.
email address, so if you would like to email us the answers or tweet at us the answers
Or just yell at us.
or just yell at us real loud out the window, it's everyfnff@gmail, and that's the word every, letters FNFF. And so you can send that to us, or follow us on Twitter and yell at us and be like, everything you said was wrong.
Yeah, and tell us, and then we'll maybe have a roundup where we're like, here's what we got wrong.
That's right. That's right. We'll record some smoochy noises and send them to you if you do that for us.
Yeah, so anyway, the one says, like, he's got tickets to that, and then the other one says, what are you? And drops a real bad word.
The R-bomb.
Yeah, you can't really say it anymore. For good reason. Yeah, he calls the guy the R word.
He calls the guy the R word.
I read that and went, oh, Jesus Christ. Like, I exclaimed when I read that, because I was like, oh, yeah. 1997 was a much different time.
It definitely was, yeah. Yeah, he just says
I wish we could say that that's the last instance of this
I was
happening.
getting ready to say, if only that could be the only time that word pops up.
Yeah, we'd let it slip if they did just the one.
Right.
Unfortunately, we got to call them out.
Yeah, so...
We're calling you out, Square, from over 2 decades ago.
And I wonder how, like, the Japanese one
exactly. I was
thinking
thinking that too.
I wonder that, yeah.
Yeah, I always wonder about the localization.
Right. So he calls him the R-bomb, and we run away and jump on the train. And we're heading, so like I said, we're heading to Sector 4, which is interesting.
Oh, okay.
The train actually says it's going to head there, but we're going to ditch the train.
Yeah.
On the way. So I assume we're going from 7 down, like 7 to 6, 5, 4, and we just jump off.
It's the 4 line. It's the line that goes to 4.
Right. So we decided that we're going to jump off the train, right? We're going to get to Sector 5 reactor by jumping off while it's mid-transit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we also get... So are we ready to go ahead and talk about the train now? Are we good there?
I think so. There was just a couple of things that... there's just a bit of dialogue, I think, from that same soldier, or the same guard, I should say, who actually says that, like, things are crazy in Midgar since the terrorist attack. Like, it's martial law, and there's rumors that soldier has been added to the police force.
Oh,
so
I
this
didn't
time
see
around,
that.
yeah,
Oh.
they've really tightened up security. And also those train punks, those crust punks that we saw earlier, have a really weird little interaction that happens.
Yeah, right when we're getting on the train.
Yeah, so you can talk to them and they say, I've had it, me too. And then they say, this is the first time we've agreed. And I'm thinking, like, okay, they're going to break up and go their separate ways or whatever. It's just a little, like, flavor of life going on here. And then they say, like, okay, and it looks like they take something and they both pass out. They both fall on the ground.
So I didn't know what that was.
I don't know. I
was like, look, sometimes I could be into planking with my friends. I could be like, hey, is it time? Is it time to just lay on the ground and be exasperated? Sure. But, like, now that you brought that up, like...
It seems like something a little... Like, I don't know if we're going to see these characters again and it'll have any more effect, but it seemed to me like they were just like, oh, everything's shitty. Our life is shitty. We both agree on this. Let's just do it. And they kill themselves.
Could be.
That's what it looks like to me.
That would be an interesting thing to know what they say in Japanese as well.
Exactly.
So if you are the Japanese
I'll try. Corey, we're calling you.
Yeah.
Friend
Corey
of the show
Hannigan,
who speaks Japanese.
Friend of the show who speaks Japanese. This is for you.
Yeah. But I'll see if I can find out more about that and bring it up next week.
Sure. So we're on the train. We get so this is an unnamed character who entirely optional to talk to. Don't have to talk to him. We see a Shinra manager on the train, right?
Which we saw on the train the night before, and he's the one who's actually like, oh, geez, like, this is why I hate taking the late train.
Yeah. So every time we get on these trains, he's always on there, and we're always harassing him, right? And this is not the last time we see him either. And Barrett kind of scares him off of the train,
Yep.
He's like, oh, these hooligans, and Barrett says, oh, you say something? And he turns around and says, hey, you, I turn to you. Did you say something? And he's like, oh, man, leave me alone. And Barrett kind of, like, scares him off the train, intimidates him.
Yeah. And I think he starts, like, quivering. And, like, if you go up to him, he's, like, thinking to himself. And he's like, oh, man, I can't wait to brag about this.
Yeah, he does say that. Yeah,
I think Tifa stops Barrett from, like, just beating the shit out of this guy. And then she does, like, a little, like, Gomenasai bow.
Right. And then, actually, speaking of Tifa, we get a kind of a redux of the Jessie scene from the train from earlier, where Tifa is looking at the same monitor that Jessie was on the train and says, "Hey, come take a look at this. there's a screen of Midgar here or whatever, and take a look at it, you know. And he walks in and she goes, oh no, get a little closer or whatever.
Yeah.
So we see the same thing. So Tifa also, like I said, Cloud and Tifa obviously have some flirtatious stuff going on between them. So
I think, doesn't she also say, I might have misread it or something, but doesn't she also say like, oh, it seems like you've done this before?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm not sure if that's like a thing, if the Jessie thing was optional and that could affect things later on.
I don't know, yeah.
But this flirt mechanic.
There's flirt mechanic going on. So so then the ID check system for the train begins. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the trains have kind of an automatic ID checking system, and it checks everybody's ID to make sure that they're allowed to be on that train, right? So these were made the night before, we learn. And Jessie, who obviously has a little bit of a crush on Cloud, says, "Oh, I'll make yours special. You know, I'll make this one special for you." So the ID system comes on, and Cloud's triggers it because something that Jessie did in the ID when she tried to make it special for Cloud, to make this fake ID, didn't work, and the system detects it, and all of a sudden we have flashing red lights going on, and a message saying, "Oh, the train's going to be in lockdown." Right?
So the train starts locking down. I think it gives you a 15-second counter, and you have to run to the next train, so that way you don't just get the next car, I should say. So you don't get locked into that one, and you just keep making your way down and until you get to the final train there, and you all decide that you're going to jump out. Right.
So we jump out, and we are in the train tunnel, and it's just kind of like a subway train tunnel. You know, like when I was looking at it, I was like, "Oh, that looks like if we jumped off the SEPTA line,
exactly.
walking around." You know,
so you can go in two directions at this point in the tunnel.
I love the fact that you can go the wrong direction.
So they say, okay, it's up this way. So you're supposed to try
to clearly tell you, like, go up.
They tell you several times. So in my mind, especially because there's a point later in the game where there's a similar thing, and if you keep running backwards, there's actually really good materia, I think.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's this part. And I start running back, and I keep running back, and keep getting random encounters, and finally make it all the way to the end, and there's two Shinra guards, and they attack you. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess they're really trying to, like, make you earn this prize that you get here, so I'm going to keep doing this. And I took note of how many phases I did, and I think it was something like I hit 10.
Really?
I was like, something's not right. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so there is an unending stream of Shinra guards that come out after you.
I consulted the ancient texts of game facts and found out that, no, that's just never ending. And
he sat there and fought them all. Yep. I fought them once. I wanted to just see it.
Yeah, no, I did it like 10 times. I was like, okay, soon it'll be like, cool, we're free now. And then...
Right.
Nope. So I'm glad I looked it up instead of just dedicating like an hour of just being like, when does this end? How did I do this when I was a kid?
So if you don't go that way and you go the quote-unquote right way, right, you'll come to these like security beams, right, that are making sure that nobody's running around down there. And if you approach them, Cloud actually says...
Did you just call him Clown?
I did call him Clown.
He is a clown.
He is a clown. He says... It would be silly to be caught by these now. Like, we've already gone so far. It would be just silly if you tried to do this. So there's a little ventilation shaft because this is Metal Gear Solid, baby.
Yep.
We're getting in the ventilation shafts.
Hideo Kojima joint.
Yo, this is like proto Kojima. The proto Kojima hours. We're getting dun 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 dun. Ga, 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 ga. So you jump into the vents. We crawl around in the vents a little bit, and we actually find Jessie in the vents as well.
Yeah.
Who's like, okay, she explains.
She admits that it was her fault that everything went to shit.
Yeah,
which again, I'm not sure how much I like that characterization. Because it's kind of like, oh, of course it's the girl who's always messing up. I'm like, come on, you could have made it.
The way she says it and everything is very like, oh, it was me or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, it is very damsel-y, right?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But you see
I'm gonna mark that one into one that doesn't hold up well.
Okay, yeah. And we see the rest of the cast kind of acting as guards, as watchouts, right, to make sure the soldiers aren't coming, to make sure the MPs aren't coming to get us while we're trying to do this next mission. And I think that's pretty much it until we actually get up in front of the next reactor.
Yeah,
right?
The only other thing I had was that Barrett says, that's one damn tiny hole. You telling me to squeeze into that and go under the plate? No way. And then he instantly just like goes into Cloud and like disappears. He's like, oh, that vent is...
into Cloud's like, tiny hole.
Yeah,
yes,
he's like, that vent is so small. And then he's just like disappears.
Walks right in there, let's see here. So we're in front of the... in front of the reactor. Looks a lot like the first reactor from the tutorial mission of the game.
It might even just be an identical model. Like,
Right, it says 1998 right on the top, just like the other one. And this time something a little different happens. So Cloud has a little bit of a freak out here, too.
Yep. Same thing with the hissing noise. And the...
Yeah, but this time instead of just a voice, we get a flashback.
Yep.
And so as of this time, it's kind of undated. We're not really sure when it is,
Yep.
right? But he kind of goes into this flashback and sees, I guess it was something from when he was younger, when he was a soldier, when he was part of Soldier, right?
Yeah.
And we see Tifa in a cowboy hat.
Yep.
Over her dead father.
And by a big-ass sword.
By a big-ass sword. Like this 8-foot-long, ridiculous katana-looking thing. And she says, to her father's body, "Oh, Sephiroth did this to you, didn't he?" And runs off with that sword. And, runs off in some direction, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any input from Cloud there, right? He's just remembering the scene.
I'm pretty sure, yeah. He just sees that, and out of context, it just makes no sense. Like,
right, yeah.
the player doesn't know what's going on. Cloud doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah,
it's just
so
something that...
he could be hallucinating. He might be remembering something from the past. Obviously, they're both younger in this one.
Yeah, it seems like something from the past.
Right. But yeah, we see this kind of like harrowing scene of Tifa over her dead father, right?
And another
so
name drop of Sephiroth.
Yeah, we hear Sephiroth again. So Sephiroth's done something. Did Sephiroth do this to you? Sephiroth killed Tifa's father. And we'll get more into that later. But, we start getting this feeling that there's a little bit of history here. Like, there's a little bit of a tragic history between these three characters, Cloud, Tifa, and Sephiroth.
And that Cloud isn't as, like, dependable as you would think he is, being that he's your avatar in the game. And, you're always in control of your avatar. But it's starting to be like, oh, well, what's going on with this? And, like... kind of sort of breaking that convention where...
That's right.
Yeah.
And actually here's an interesting thing. Barrett expresses a little bit of disbelief about Cloud being Tifa's childhood friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's kind of like, I don't know about you guys or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't, like, go into it very much, but he's just like, look, I don't care, Like,
Cloud calls him his chaperone, and he says, being Tifa's friend isn't good enough.
Yeah, he does, yeah.
Like, he needs to prove himself more than just...
That's right, yeah. So I might have been reading a little bit more into that than I should have, but yeah. So we plant the bomb. This time, no timer. This bomb isn't a timed one.
Jessie's upgraded her bomb-making skills. It now has a remote detonator.
Right. And so we start our way out of it, and then we get to the greatest piece of Final Fantasy VII, the button-pushing minigame.
I was just going to say,
Yes, it is.
It's great.
In quotation marks, great. Do you want to tell us about that one?
Yeah, so there's a little console with like 3 keyboards on it, and Barrett and Tifa go on one side of it, and you have to go to the other, and they say, oh, the door's only going to open if we all hit the button at the same time.
Right.
And then that starts a thing
and
where...
there is no 1, 2, 3, go or anything.
No, it just throws you in, and Barrett and Tifa do it at the same time. And you look like an idiot just throwing your hands up. Like,
all right. And you use both of your hands. Everyone uses both of their hands. It looks like they're smacking the table. Yep. And so you all have to like demand photos of Spider-Man at the same time.
And I feel like it's gotta I feel like it's gotta be like a 1-frame window or something, because
it's so tight.
I got so close and there's like a little bit of an audio cue where it's like boop, and like I got one time where it was like boop. And it was like,
it's not good enough.
Didn't work.
No,
and I was like, oh my
it
God.
is so tight, that timing window. But like I said, no timing, no timer on the bomb this time. If it was like a timer on the bomb, it would be like, I would be so furious. I'd be like, what are you doing? So we get
So you finally hit the buttons.
Yeah, you finally hit the
buttons. You master that mini game, which is never done again. They should make that in Gold Saucer.
Yeah, that's a game that you can come play later, a mini game.
Get the high score.
This? Yeah, get the high score, get the closest. So this time, all the Mako reactors look the same, and so our way out of the Mako reactor looks the same as it did for the first one, right? They're all built the same.
Yep.
And this time, as we're just about to get to where we dodged the blast last time and ducked into that hole, we're met with a score of Shinra soldiers instead.
Yep.
Yeah.
They just kind of got the drop on you, and it kind of becomes pretty apparent that this was a trap.
Yeah, this is a setup, yeah. So something's happened. There could have been a mole. There could be...
who knows? But
something's going on.
On both sides, you're surrounded by soldiers, and then down the catwalk, someone else is walking.
Right.
Towards you the way you came.
So there's this... chubby man, this like a rotund individual, is balding, walking toward you, and we learn that this is the president of Shinra. So this is the dude upstairs.
Yep.
The guy who's in charge of the big dog in charge of the military, in charge of the company, kind of has the vision for Shinra, as shitty as it is, right?
Yep.
And he himself has come to kind of give you a little hello, right? And Barrett, freaks out and is like, "This is the guy. This is who we're up against." And is it Cloud that says "long time no see" to him?
I think President Shinra says that to him, or Cloud says that to him, and he says, "Oh, I don't know you," and then he says, "Oh no, I do know." No.
He's a little confused at first.
Yeah, I think.
That.
Long time no see. Oh, you? Yeah, and then Cloud says, "I don't know you," and then there's another one of those flashes that says, "I do know you." And he goes,
that's right. He
"Oh,
hears
I
the
do
voice
know you."
again.
Yeah, so
it says,
another
"I do
thing
know
where
you."
Cloud's memory isn't all there, but he's having conflicting things like, "Oh, I don't know who this guy is." "Oh, I do."
And like you said, being that he's the avatar for the player, we're kind of being introduced to the idea that like you can't necessarily trust everything Cloud says.
Yeah.
Like it could just be ignorance, or it could be some sort of trauma, or who knows, right?
Yeah.
But not everything that he says is going to be accurate.
Right.
Or is this voice inaccurate at this
Yeah.
point? We don't
it's
know.
Like we don't know who the unreliable narrator is at this point, and
Right.
things are just confusing.
Right.
And like pretty much any time it happens, Cloud kind of just shakes it off, and he's like, "Oh, that was weird. Like whatever." Like,
Yeah.
and he like
just
kind
moves
of
on.
he kind of acts like nothing happened.
Yeah, go ahead. No.
So but an interesting thing is that President Shinra says like, "Oh, so it was you who quit Soldier and joined Avalanche." So it seems like they knew that Avalanche had to have some sort of like help, outside help, because like a ragtag group of people
Right.
need some serious firepower to be able to pull off what they're doing.
Right.
And he says that he knows that he was in Soldier because of his eyes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we learned about Mako infusion here, don't we? So Cloud's eyes, those are bright green, aren't they?
I think so. There's something, this gets brought up a lot. I think this is the first instance of it, but they say that you have like Mako eyes. Like there's something going on with your eyes where that's like the mark of a soldier.
Yeah. The way they can tell the all caps soldiers is that they have these eyes that you can see them. So I think that they're like bright colored and they've been Mako infused at some point.
Yeah.
So something about the lifeblood of the planet has been like injected into them, or maybe they snorted it.
Yep.
Or maybe they rolled it up in a little dube before they joined Soldier. But they've ingested that Mako somehow, right? Yeah. They took a hit of that Mako. Yo, bro, get a hit of this live stream.
They're in an M hole.
Yeah.
But another little bit, the president says that like, "Oh, sorry, like I don't remember your name. Like I can't remember everyone's name unless you're Sephiroth, because Sephiroth was awesome. He was brilliant, and perhaps too brilliant."
Yeah, right. And I didn't write down enough of President Shinra's monologue here, and so it's kind of like kind of.
There's some, that's totally fine.
But he doesn't reveal any plans at this point. Is that correct?
No, nothing really. The only thing that he says is I think he calls them. Let me see here. Yeah, he just says like, "Oh, like." He calls the boss that you're about to fight something like a techno soldier or something hilarious.
Yes. Okay. So this is the part that I wanted to talk about a lot.
Yeah.
So he tells you to meet Air Buster, a techno soldier.
Techno soldier, yes.
Yeah. And so he says, our weapon development department created him. Mm-hmm. And so he rolls out this machine, right? Yeah. This before he gets on his helicopter first, right? Yes, before you fight.
Yeah, he escapes on a helicopter.
Yeah, so a helicopter comes in and swoops in and saves him, which...
Cloud goes after him. So the Air Buster's
right.
on the catwalk, and Barrett and Tifa are behind it, and it's starting to, like, advance on them. So they're backing up.
Right, and Cloud
goes after President Shinra, and President Shinra's like, peace.
Yeah.
Jumps in a helicopter and takes off.
For a rotund man,
yeah.
He gets on that helicopter with no ladder real quick.
So he takes off. And then the catwalk's like kind of a T shape, and Cloud runs back, but he's now behind this Air Buster, this techno soldier, as it were.
So it's in between Barrett and Tifa and Cloud.
And this sets up another battle type, kind of showing you that there's different types of battles and different strategies, again, with another boss fight, where Tifa and Barrett are on one side, Cloud is on the other.
Yeah. And this is the best boss. For this reason, is the first time that we hear the boss music in Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, yeah.
And, it slaps.
It's so good.
It slaps. It's so good. It has this, like, thrash metal guitar, like, undertone. And, like, whereas I feel like a thrash metal a lot of times can be very, like, one key, kind of one note. It'll sit on the, like, if you're playing in standard, it'll sit on the E,
Yep.
This has now become a music theory podcast.
Sweet.
It really goes places. The whole soundtrack is fantastic. But I remember being younger, playing this when it came out, and being like, what in the world am I listening to right now? It is fantastic. What a song.
Yep.
Is it Those That Fight? Is that the name
I think
of it?
that might be the name.
Is Those That Fight or Those That Fight Further?
I think it's the man with the machine gun. No, I'm just kidding. That's another boss or battle theme that slaps. Different game.
Yeah, you should go look this up on YouTube. If you don't know the song already, go check it out. It's Boss Music for Final Fantasy VII. And if you hear some just screaming guitar, some good chugs at the beginning, then you are listening to the right one. It slaps. It's so good. I'm super into it. So I was writing that down in my notes when I first fought him. I was like, oh, this is the one. This is the important one right here.
Yep. I have so many notes of just being like, this song slaps. Like the entire soundtrack slaps, but there's some that are...
what a jam. What a jam.
Oh, yeah.
So is there anything really there's not really that much special about the Air Buster itself, right?
No, I think it counterattacks on like every hit, so you got to kind of be careful with that.
Sure.
It's that 2-on-1 battle mechanic where 2 on one side, 1.
And if you hit something that's not facing you, you do twice the amount of damage, or like 1.5.
Maybe I didn't.
You do more damage.
That
to
makes
it if it's
sense.
facing away.
Because and that comes up later if you get a preemptive strike too. You do more damage.
Right.
So, but it'll also counterattack and just it has like little machine guns on its back. Sometimes it'll turn around and try and attack you, and then that changes the strategy a little bit. I mean, it's a pretty easy boss fight.
Yeah, it's not bad.
But
what's important is what happens after you beat it.
It drops a Titan bangle. It does do that, but that's not what's important.
We're going to be coming back to that Titan bangle every episode. It is the plot device of FF7. Yo, this bad boy blows up.
Just explodes, and Tifa and Barrett are safe on their side of the catwalk.
Right.
But Cloud falls and is hanging on.
Right, he is hanging on to this catwalk and tells you immediately, like, I don't know. Like, I'm slipping, right?
Yep.
Like, he's about to fall. And remember, the Midgar is like this pizza with this, 50 meters up in the air is where the reactors and everything are. So you're considerably...
He's going to be falling quite a ways.
Yeah, it's going to be a long fall.
Yeah.
And you get these two options when you're falling. Barrett says, hey, are you going to be all right? And your options are be strong or I don't know if I can hold on.
Yeah, you got to go be strong.
And going back to... What I was saying earlier about that show, Let's Mosey, again, everybody should go watch it. It's great. About the translations. One thing they don't do in the Japanese, but they do in the American version, is again, they kind of like unnecessarily gender something. If you pick, I don't know if I can hold on. Barrett says, stop crying like a woman. Which, like, come on, Barrett, come on.
90s, different time.
He's so progressive with his political ideas, but not so much with his gender ones, so... But again, you could say minor, but come on,
it all adds up. We're gonna mark that one in the
right. And again, like no one loves Final Fantasy more than we do. And I think the thing is that like when you really love something and you want to see it grow and be good, you can't be afraid to be like, hey, that's
you
not
gotta call
great.
out some things.
You gotta call it out when it happens. So we're gonna be doing that throughout.
There's a lot in this game. That's not good.
There really is, yeah. All right. So either way, whether you pick Be Strong or I don't know if I can hold on. Cloud suffers the same fate. There's the explosion happens, right? The explosion from the bomb that you set up earlier.
Yep.
And it rattles the catwalk, and Cloud loses his grip and falls, right? Yeah. And there's a hilarious scene of him falling where he's just kind of like not even a rag doll. Like he's just like,
I feel like he's stationary, and he's falling.
Completely stationary with all of his limbs pointing in like different directions, like an X, right? And just wobbling down and just like falling down, right? And like his face actually turns to look where he's falling, but he doesn't convulse or anything. He just keeps his limbs out there the whole time. And
pure instinct.
It's the funniest
pure
thing.
instinct. It's like when a cat falls.
Yeah, it's like when a cat falls. It's the best. Yeah. And whenever I see it, I'm always like, Cloud. Yeah. Like, this is silly.
Yeah, another quick important detail, I think, or not that important, it's kind of a minor one, but Tifa tells Cloud that he can't die, and there's still so much he wants to tell him.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So again, kind of hinting at this romantic thing between them. So we're going to get to the last part of our cast today, and we're really going to meet my favorite character again.
Yeah.
So Cloud lands on a church, right? Yep. And he just completely like makes a hole in the roof, falls through, and he lands in a flower bed, right? And we see the girl from earlier.
Yep.
And so
Yeah. So he lands. I think the music changes here too to one of my favorite songs on this disc, to "Flowers Blooming in the Church," which is a great theme. There's like a bit of weird back and forth dialogue again, just with the unreliable narrator, like not really sure what's going on. Something about like scraped knees, and back then it might be like Cloud remembering Tifa, but he's also kind of having a conversation in real time with someone else.
Yeah,
and he gets woken up.
Or is it with himself?
Or it might be himself.
Yeah, it's really up in the air.
There's a lot of weird like stuff like that, like not sure who's the one talking. But,
right.
Then he gets woken up by the flower girl from the Sector 5 slums. Yeah. And like you said, he lands in the flower bed.
Right. So the flower girl's here. She kind of finds him, and this character's name, canonically, is Aeris.
Okay. Okay. I have in my notes that you get prompted, and her name is Aeris, and you have the option to change every playable character's name. And, and I was going to say that if you don't change it to Aerith, then you're a cop. But it's I changed it to Aerith. But that's another thing too. It's like where did all that start?
Right. There were 2 demo discs for Final Fantasy VII before it came out of the opening bombing mission, and it doesn't happen in the actual game, but in the demo discs, one of them has Tifa and the other one has Aerith. Yeah. And that's where I think that's where that comes from. Yeah. It definitely says Aerith in that one.
So this is kind of a thing that I think like the
tweet at us.
Yeah. We'll start a poll. That expires.
Whatever the poll says is right no matter what.
In 9 months.
Her name is Bodhi McBoatface, and that's canon now. That's what it is.
Yeah. So there's discussion about if it's Aeris or Aerith. Doesn't really matter. But yeah, so...
so like I said, this is my favorite character. I love Aeris so much. And the reason I do is that we've seen her 3 times now. Yeah. And each of those times, she kind of seems like she's going to be this very, like, pious... completely non-threatening, and like again, kind of a stereotypical character. A lot of things. A lot of times, women play this stereotypical character in games. Yeah, probably unfairly, and maybe makes a little bit of an issue, right? Yeah. But I feel like we very quickly get the idea that Aeris is hilarious. Yeah. Like, she tells jokes the whole game.
Yeah, and she dunks on Cloud, too.
Dunks on subtly. Him constantly. It's so funny. She's so subtle about all of it. Another thing I was reading about is, so she asks Cloud what he's doing. Like, who are you? Like, what's going on, you know? And... she's asking, what do you do? And he goes, oh, me, I do a little bit of everything. Yep. In the Japanese, her pet name for him is Mr. Everything Man.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, so when she says bodyguard in this one, she's actually saying Mr. Everything. Because he says he does a little bit of everything. That's really good. And so she makes fun of him, like, the whole game about it. And
like he's trying to be sly, he's trying to flirt, and she's just not having it.
Right.
But also she's having a little bit, but she's not just like, ooh.
Yeah, she's not, like, fawning over him the way, like, we're kind of seeing
she's like, okay, jack of all trades, okay.
Yeah, and she constantly does this throughout the entire game, and she always seems to be like the one who has these like cheeky comebacks all the time. Yeah, and that's what I love about her character is that like, okay, where's the flower girl? You know, she's in a church. It's gonna be very, she really very clean and everything, and we very quickly find out like she's very open with like her dating past. She talks about that, right? And like it doesn't shy away from that. Like it's kind of messy. There's kind of some dudes she was with that weren't so great, and we learn more about them in a bit. But like I think that character's awesome. I love Aeris in Final Fantasy VII. So hopefully nothing bad will happen to her.
Hopefully she sticks around. I
hope she sticks around the whole game. Yeah.
I feel like another thing that I really loved is you get an option here when she's like, oh, do you remember me? And you can say, oh, yes, you're the flower girl. Yeah. Or you can say, yeah, I remember you. You were the slum drunk. Which is great.
I never picked it.
I don't think I ever have either. Even knowing the mechanics of why you might want to pick that. Like, I think... I can never be that mean. I think there's like an Onion article or something where it's like polite man playing JRPG having hard time making like asshole character be an asshole. And that's like how I play.
I know, me too.
So yeah, you say, yeah, I remember you were the flower girl, and if you didn't buy the flower from her, she's like, yeah, you didn't buy a flower from me, but that's fine. Like a little bit of shade.
Yeah. She also kind of really quick one-off mentions a materia that she has. She says, oh, you got materia, that's cool and everything. She says, I have one. It's good for nothing. It's useless.
It's good for nothing, she says. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And Cloud says, he decides he's going to mansplain a little bit. Yeah. He goes, good for nothing. you probably just don't know how to use it. And she goes, yeah, no, I do. It just doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I like that she immediately goes, no, yes, I do.
She's not like, oh, maybe, she's just like, nope.
She goes, no, I know how to use it. Stop your BS here, yeah. But yeah, she says she just, what does she say about it? She's like, just likes having it on her.
Yeah, it reminds her, it was her mother's, so it's comforting to her.
That's right. And then while we're talking, like in the middle of this discussion, like without any fanfare, without any introduction, some characters start walking in from the door, right? So we get these, we get some Shinra soldiers and a dude in a
nice
fresh ass blazer and some nice sunglasses, right? And a red mullet. Is there like a ponytail?
I think it's a ponytail.
It's a ponytail, yeah.
I thought it was a mullet, but then I think in Advent Children he's got the ponytail. Yeah. So,
and he's been kind of listening to the end of this conversation, and Aeris sees him kind of out of the corner of her eye and quickly asks Cloud, like, "Hey, have you ever been a bodyguard?"
Yeah. Hey, Mr. Jack of all trades, can you be my bodyguard?
Yeah. And he's like,
probably won't ever come up, but will you be my bodyguard?
Yeah, just in case. It's in case something happens. Yeah. And so they go ahead and book it. They don't even wait for this character to introduce himself or anything. Yep. They just go ahead and head out the back of the church, right? And we get an introduction to Reno, the Turk.
The Turk. With the Turks theme, with the...
Oh my god. Such a good song. Another song
really
you have to go look
song.
up. It's so good.
So I think I actually misspoke earlier when he was meeting President Shinra. I had my thoughts mixed up. This is actually where he says, like, I don't know you. Then there's the flash, I know you. Oh, I do know you.
That is right.
Cloud does recognize him, or kind of recognizes him. I'm just trying to be meta and throw off the listeners with all of this like weird memory stuff going on.
This will make them play the game.
It's not that I have a shitty memory and took bad notes.
So we meet Reno from the Turks. We don't really know much about the Turks right now. There's been a kind of, not even a running gag during this conversation with Aeris, and as Reno starts walking to catch up with them, we've heard twice now, don't step on the flowers.
Yep.
Right? So there's flowers in the middle of this church.
This
the Cloud
is really
lands
good.
on.
I liked this a lot.
Such a good scene. It's one of the things I remembered, too, from when I played it when I was younger. And so he walks right over the flowers, just steps right on them. And as soon as he tells the Shinra guards who he's with to follow him, he says, oh, don't step on the flowers. And they all immediately just go, Reno, you just stepped on the flowers.
Yep. It's great, too, because I was taking the notes about it, and I'm like, Reno walks through the flowers like a total asshole. He also here mentions that Cloud had Mako eyes. He's like, this guy had Mako eyes. Like, but... I was writing down, like, hey, this asshole, like, just walked through the flowers, and then he starts saying, like, oh, yeah, guys, don't walk through the flowers, and I was like, what a hypocrite and stuff. And then, like, I take down that note, and then I hit A, and they're all dunking on him. I'm like, that guy.
They all dunk on him, but my favorite line in it is, you're gonna catch holy hell. One of the soldiers go, they're ruined. Like, very
They're ruined.
They're ruined. So... We catch up with Cloud and Aeris, and they are trying to escape out the back of this church, but there's no door on floor level.
Yep.
Instead, what we have is a bunch of fallen debris that kind of leads to a way up out of the roof.
Yep.
Right? And so we get another baffling minigame.
Yep.
Like, whether this one or the button mashing is more baffling, I don't know. But
I feel like this one's a little more baffling.
It is. Like, it makes no sense. But as they're jumping, Aeris... is about to jump over a gap.
So what happens is they actually the soldiers come into the room and they say the ancient is getting away, and they open fire, and Aeris slips and falls down to the basement of the church.
Right, because she's getting fired at. Right?
Yeah,
it's not,
So
and so she's now at the basement of the church with the Shinra guards, and Cloud is up in the rafters.
Yeah.
And so she asks Cloud, like, Cloud, come help me. And you have a couple options. You can tell her to run away, or hold on just a minute, or stay and fight him.
Yeah.
And there are barrels set up in the rafters for whatever reason. It seems like a safe place to put those.
Have you ever been in a church?
I know.
You don't know about the rafter barrels?
Yeah, I know. Well, I was a Protestant when I was younger, and so it might be
It's a Catholic church. It's filled with the communion.
The Eucharist. So there's these barrels of communion wafers up in the rafters. And you can push them down in a specific order to fall on the Shinra guards or run them over or block their path. And there is like no correlation from where those barrels are positioned to how they're going to eventually roll down to the bottom. So it's entirely possible to push all the barrels, nothing to happen, and Aeris is just like, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Can you hit Aeris with them?
I don't think so, but maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I just kind of...
I knew it was coming, so I looked it up before I did it this time.
I just did it just as a casual thing, but I got it correct because I'm a pro gamer.
Oh, wow.
No, it's
you
just
spent enough time in Catholic church.
Yeah, exactly. I know my way around a church. But no, I did it, and I kind of I think the way to like think about it is like, Aeris is here, the guard is there, so like, I would try and like... even trying to explain this, it makes sense in my brain, but it doesn't make sense to translate. But like, the bottom barrel corresponds with Aeris, so like how the other ones go to it. That's how I looked at it, and I got it right.
Yeah, okay, that works then. Yeah,
it was a 25% chance on the first one to get it right, and I got it right. And and then it was an easier chance.
So you save her from the Turks. She makes it to the rafters with you, and you book it on out of there.
Yep.
And we get a cute little scene of them walking across the
debris.
The debris, by the roof and everything. And here Cloud kind of explains what the Turks are, and he says that they're a Shinra organization, and that their thing is they're scouting for possible soldiers.
Yep.
So that's kind of their deal.
Yep.
And they're into a bunch of other stuff, too.
He said some side stuff, some other dirty stuff on the side.
Yeah.
Spying, murder,
Yeah, right, all that, yeah. And Aeris asks Cloud, this is where Aeris asks Cloud, were you ever in Soldier? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he kind of goes into that spiel.
Yeah, and I think this is also kind of another funny thing is Cloud's like, why are they after you? And she says, I don't know, maybe they think I'm good enough to be in Soldier.
Right, yeah. And so like already she's like being a goof, you know what I mean? Like, because she's kind of giving him shit with it, you know? And she's like, hey, maybe I'm good enough to be in Soldier. Yeah. And I love that when she jumps across the thing, it's just, as soon as she like finishes a jump, she'll sit there and be like, whew.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
It's like, also great. She does like an arm pump animation like 3 times. Like she's prepping herself to jump, and then because Cloud is just a total tryhard, and he's just like skipping across.
Yeah, he's like skipping,
and she's like, "Yo, wait up! Like,
yeah,
you're supposed to be protecting me."
I like that. Not in this. So they fixed some things about the translation for the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
I like in the original one, she says "huff wheeze," and I was always like the idea of her just being like, just like fucking like wheezing about to die,
That's so good.
We're coming up to the end of this episode, where we come to Sector 6. Is that right? Is that where we are? These sectors, I tell you.
Yeah.
It's so confusing. But I think we're in Sector 6, where Aeris lives. And I think that we should save some details about Sector 6 for the next episode.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and she says, hey, we're going to go to my house, right? We're like, I live nearby. We'll go there. We'll talk about what we're going to do next. And you kind of get the feeling that Aeris is kind of like into this, like, there could be an adventure happening, right? And she's kind of like, oh, okay, I'm kind of into seeing what's going on.
Yeah, see what's going to happen here.
And so we run through the Sector 6 slum to her house, or her mother's house, who inexplicably lives in a well-lit garden with like a nice, clear, fresh pond outside. Yep. So like, again, like they hit it really hard with all these like holy kind of like pure things. And that's kind of why I like Aeris again, is that like, her actions don't necessarily
reflect,
or at least reflect the idea, I guess, that people have of like quote unquote goodness. It's more of like a goodness of character more than like purity. Right. And that is where we're going to leave it off today. Do you have anything else you want to say about it?
No, I think that about does it.
All right. So if you're going to play along with us, the next episode is going to be starting here, and we're going to go through Wall Market, which is going to be an adventure, especially for 2 cis straight white men to talk about. Yep. So we look forward to your Twitter responses and emails on that one. Like there's some problematic aspects of the game.
Well,
not tomorrow, but the next episode is going to be where we start ironing out a couple of the larger ones.
I feel like this is the big glaring one that everyone either knows about or that we're going to have to talk about. And like you said, we might not be the experts on the topic.
Yeah.
But it's no good.
So I tell you what, let's talk about, do we want to go from there until we're done with Midgar? Because it's Wall Market, Shinra Tower, you're out of Midgar.
Yeah.
Or do we want to like stop in the Shinra Tower somewhere? I feel like we knock through it pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think we can knock through it pretty quickly.
So if you're playing along with us, we're gonna go from outside of Aeris' house to outside of Midgar. We're gonna wrap up the Midgar section of the game, which is a good section of a game, especially for a JRPG. It's kind of wild to not see a world map or go to any other areas for several hours.
Yeah, and then and when it opens up, it makes
it's wild. You're like, oh my goodness, there's an entire other game. But we'll get to that point. We'll talk about how crazy that is next time. So is there anything you'd like to say? Anything coming up? You got any GMO shows?
No, nothing really. Nothing to plug this time.
Just FYI, Karl's in a YMO cover band, and they're fantastic. Our producer Alex is here with us right now. Alex, do we have any Mage Hand shows coming up?
None to announce yet.
None to announce. Okay. So, if you're into that, if you're in the Philadelphia area and would like to come see us or talk about Final Fantasy in person, which I am always down to do, coming out with us, come see us sometime.
Hopefully at the next Mage Hand show, someone doesn't run in with a gun and clear the place out.
Clear the place
and then activate the pinball machine to go to their secret base.
Yeah.
That rarely happens at Mage Hand shows. But
Rarely, but we can't count it out. It could happen. It gets rowdy in there sometimes.
It does, yeah.
It does.
Absolutely.
All right, so our theme music was a remix of Liberi Fatale. Is that how you say that as well?
Sounds good.
All right, it's a remix of Liberi Fatale by DJ Cutman or Chris Davidson. I'll ask him which name he wants to go by in the interim. And we'll see you then. Like I said, we have a Twitter at everyfnff, at everyfnff, which is the word every, then the letters FNFF. And same spelling, we have an email, everyfnff@gmail.com. You can email us there, send us something on Twitter, say something hilarious or mean enough, and we may even read it out loud.
Yeah.
So
Say hello.
Say hello.
Tell us you're pissed at us because we like Final Fantasy VIII and call her Aeris.
Yeah, tell us what her actual name is. Tell us how to pronounce Mako. All right. Cool. You good, Karl?
Yep. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. And I'll see you next week.